Hello and welcome back to the NOTCAST, or welcome if this is your first episode, in which an oldish man talks about oldish things that he has in a bag, advertising an oldish film. I used to call this the random record, Russian roulette, but Russia has bad connotations these days, so it's your random record rummage. And so therefore I don't quite know what's going to be in this bag. I have some suspicions, but I don't know until I pick it out. And I have an army of child slaves, i.e. my son, to pick out things and then to get me to talk about them. And I figure if you think about the Netflix thing about finding things that bring you joy, is you've got to have the things in your life that bring you joy. And if you don't, there is little enough joy in this world anyway. You need to kind of take the things and find the things that you love and stick with them. The second thing is that if you do not love something, you shouldn't have it. And this also means, by the way, if you're a fan of British television, there's a thing called Stacey's Sort Your Life Out. Stacey Solomon, a bit of comfort television where people take the contents of their houses and then they have to reduce the sheer amount of absolute kipple that they've got. Now, kipple is a theory from the writer Philip K. Dick. That is that the existential amount of random stuff that you have in a house expands and grows over time. And so therefore, if it's left unattended, kipple will double every 24 or 48 hours. And so the random stuff that you've got, like when you've got everyone's got a place where they put things. They've got there's somewhere I put my keys and my wallet and all that type of stuff. But there's also the chair where you put random things until you have to sort them out and put them away. I have the chair for my record collection. I have one for my books and I have one for my CDs and DVDs. And if I buy something, I have to then think, where am I going to put it? Is there space to put it anywhere? And obviously, there is some sanctimonious discussion around, well, how much is too much? And well, the answer is, well, firstly, how much can you fit into your man cave? And secondly, how much is it worth? Well, it's not worth anything if it doesn't mean anything to you. And that's probably the most important thing that there is. If it doesn't mean anything to you, you shouldn't do it. So let's see what's in here and what's worth it to me. Because if I can't talk about it for a couple of minutes at least, I shouldn't have it, right? Which is going to be a little bit strange. So I'm going to go first off for a CD. This is a CD album. I don't know which CD album it is. I am running my finger along there, and I know that is not, what's the word now? That is not that's not Braille, so it can't be Pink Floyd's Division Bell. So this is REM's Automatically Live. This is REM recorded live without looking, by the way, at the 40 Watt Club in Athens, Georgia, on what I think is the 19th of November 1992. It was powered by Greenpeace, so it was a solar powered recording studio. It was the only show the band played to promote the Automatic for the People album, and it's a show that was designed specifically to raise money for charity and awareness of ecologically friendly and recyclable energy units. This, just quickly, is the unofficial release, which I think is on KTS Records, and features a different mix to the version of the show that was released on the Automatic for the People 25th anniversary box set in 2017, which I have approximately 14 feet away from me and down one flight of stairs. This was, for a long period of time, the only way to get the full show. Most of the show was released on CD singles for the Monster album, which came to, I think, of a total of 15 or 12 songs. And there was also a cassette. Let me see if I can easily reach it, which they turned into the... Hang on. Here we go. Yeah, so there was a cassette of this, which was here, REM's 92. And that REM's 92 is the same show as on here, but it's a different mix. So this was a cassette where, in the days where home taping was killing music kids, you either had the cassette single of Tongue, which is backed with an instrumental version of the Tongue track, which, by the way, Tongue is one of my favourite REM songs. Or you also have on here REM 92 as a cassette. So the cassette was spent so you could record the show from your CD singles of Monster and put them onto this tape and turn it into a live album that existed on cassette. So there you go, REM's 92, an obscure cassette-only release of a live show, which didn't actually have the live show on it. You had to tape it yourself, which is much like when people were doing discless versions of albums or burn your own CD versions of albums. I don't quite know why people have done that. Not many people have got a CD burner anymore, but there you are. And so this is the home cassette 1995 version. That. And on here it says, when compiled as shown, this tape forms a record of the concert REM performed on 19th of November 1992 in Athens, Georgia for Greenpeace. The unlisted encore tracks are included as there are 3 songs recorded in 1994 for Saturday Night Live. And here is the photograph of the handwritten set list that goes inside the cassette. This CD is the same show, and it features all of the show, including the between songs Natter, and therefore features 13 songs: Drive, Monty Got a Raw Deal, Everybody Hurts, Man on the Moon, Losing My Religion, Country Feedback, Begin the Begin, Fall on Me, Me and Honey, Finest Work Song, Drive, Love is All Around, Fun Time, and Radio Free Europe. Now, 2 of those songs are not on the cassette release here. I can't remember which ones they are, but there you are. And so therefore, because in the days of CD singles, you normally had 4 songs on a CD, i.e. the lead track and 3 B-sides, 4 singles, 12 songs, so therefore one of them is missing, if not 2, from the official release here, and also the 3 encore tracks. Anyway, this is the only show from the 1992 Automatic for the People era by the band. A much treasured, much coveted bootleg for long periods of time, and very interesting listen. And yeah, very, very good. I really like the band at this point. They were due to play Birmingham in 1989 at the NEC, and they played, but I didn't have the pocket money. So in 1989, 2 of my favourite bands played the Birmingham NEC, and I missed them, and then they didn't tour for ages. One of whom was New Order, who played the Birmingham NEC on about the 25th or 26th of March, 1989, and I just didn't have the pocket money, and I was only like 15. And yeah, that's still something to this day. I was like, I wish I'd been able to go, but I didn't. Because, who knew that the band was then going to split up and not play any shows for several years. And secondly, REM played the Birmingham NEC around about the 16th of May, 1989, and then didn't play live again until 1995, at which point the show that I did have tickets for at Wembley Arena was cancelled due to Bill Berry, who I've still not seen in the flesh, having an aneurysm. And therefore I didn't get to see REM until 1999, when I first saw them at London's Earl's Court on the 22nd of June, which was a very good show. So that is REM's Automatically Live. I reckon I passed the 2-minute mark talking about that, so I should keep it, right? Right. Okay, so this is a DVD. I don't know which DVD it is. By looking at the weight of it, it appears to be a double DVD, and it is The Chronicles of Riddick. Whoops. Okay, not the best film ever made. Going to struggle to talk about this one for 2 minutes. I do really enjoy Pitch Black, the first one of the 3 movies. There's this, The Chronicles of Riddick, and Riddick itself, which Vin Diesel tried to turn himself into an action movie hero from a science fiction dystopia. If I remember correctly, this film is directed by David Toohey, I believe. And he also directed, I think, Dark City, which is a goddamn masterpiece. And both Pitch Black and Dark City are available in superior director's cuts. I have Pitch Black on Blu-ray. I have Dark City on Blu-ray. I have The Chronicles of Riddick on good old-fashioned DUVD. This is not a double DVD, despite how I think it's just got a hefty plastic package that's in there. And I think what's happening in this film is expanding the clearly budget-limited vision of the original film. So some films, like, for example, you turn your limitations into strengths, you play to your weaknesses, and the limitations are you don't have a huge amount of money, or, for example, the shark doesn't work properly, or something else. So you end up doing almost bottle movies. Now, bottle movies are movies where they're only set in one room, very small cast. For example, I'm thinking my favourite episode of Breaking Bad, and I know some people absolutely hate it, is The Fly, directed by Ryan Johnson. That's a bottle episode which is just two people and a fly set in one room. Chronicles of Riddick is most definitely not a bottle movie. It is a huge, expansive movie that tries to add on to and create a mythology and a legend around something that, frankly, doesn't really need to be explained. Nobody learned their lessons, did they, from the Phantom Menace, which is you don't always need to explain absolutely everything, do you? Sometimes a little bit of mystery is good enough. And Riddick is, well, the Chronicles of Riddick is a film that tries to expand the world. So it feels to me that David Toohey has seen the original character of Riddick, and he then goes, right, so I can make it like Dune. And it ends up just being too big, and there's not enough sense that goes on in this film. I don't understand it. Really, I should watch it again. I've never felt the need to in about 10 years. It came out, and let me just quickly check here, 2004. So it's 20 years old, 21 years old now. And I've not felt the need to rewatch it often. It just seems to be one of those films that tries to create a bullshit expanded universe and create a franchise where really you didn't really need one. Sometimes you just don't need extra movies. Like, for example, do we need a Gremlins 3? Probably not. Do we need a Back to the Future 4? No, we don't. Do we need a Terminator 14? Abso-fucking-lutely not. And Riddick just fails that by going, right, so you did it once, it worked, made money, let's do it again, but more money. And it ends up trying to be like a Dune, but it's like a Dune, if you were the Dune from Temu or Wish or whatever it's called, it's not very good. So I know what this is next because I've seen it poking out, but I'm going to pretend that I don't. It's good that I'm wearing an appropriate t-shirt by the band that I saw recently called the Orbitals, which is two Bold brothers that make fantastic electronica. This album is Kraftwerk's The Remixes, which I have yet to do an episode about, but I will do. And so I'm going to be a little bit light on detail for this. This was released in 2022 and features remixes from the albums The Mix, Tour de France soundtracks, and the single EP Expo 2000. It's a triple LP. It features one previously unreleased song. So it features Non-Stop, which is a 1993 re-recording and remix of Music Non-Stop by the band. The music was written by Fritz and Ralph. So it should have probably been a B-side of a 12-inch in 1991. It wasn't. So if you want it, that's a previously unreleased Kraftwerk studio track there. Also, we have the Kling Klang mixes of Robotronic and Robotnik. And those are re-recordings and rearrangements of the robots from the 1991 The Mix album that were B-sides of the CD single of the robots, which, by the way, I think only Robotronic was previously released on vinyl, so this is the first vinyl version of Robotnik. We also get a pointless single remix of Home Computer, the hardcore remix of Radioactivity, which was only released on vinyl on an American 12-inch of Radioactivity, and the Francis Kavakian 12-inch mix as well, which means I don't think you get the main William Orbit remix of Radioactivity on here. You also get seven remixes of Expo 2000 on a disc of its own. So you get two Kling Klang mixes, 2001 and 2002. You don't get the other versions. Let me just quickly check what isn't on here, because it's not a full and exhaustive version of remixes. Yeah, you don't get the Kling Klang mix 2000 at all. So there, and you get the Orbital mix as well. Now, from what I understand is that Orbital didn't get the master tapes or didn't get access to the multi-track stems for it. They recreated the track using some vocal samples. So that was interesting. And they get a Francis Kavakian remix, a DJ Rolando mix, the Orlando Underground Resistance version of Expo 2000, which was later played live as part of what was then called Planet Visions, and an Underground Resistance mix as well. Disc 3 is the remixes from the Tour de France album. So you get Aerodynamique and you get Tour de France, an alternate version of Etape 2, Stage 2, and you get an Intelligent Design mix and a King of the Mountains mix of Aerodynamique and La Forme. So that's quite interesting. What it doesn't have electrocardiogram on it. It doesn't have the Kling Klang 2000 mix on. It doesn't have the alternate kind of William Orbit mix of Radioactivity, but it's quite good. But this very much, if you're a Kraftwerk fan, You can think about this as really being effectively like a release of basically bonus tracks to go with the mix and Tour de France as an album in its own right. It is, of course, completely redundant, absolutely unnecessary, features very little in the way of unreleased material, but is a good way of maybe stretching out perhaps a little bit Kraftwerk's discography. But it's not in any way anything apart from basically a B-sides compilation. So let's go for the 7-inch. Let's go for the 7-inch. Let's see what this is. I think I know what this is. I think this is by the Northwestern. It is. It is Telephones and All the Ones. 7-inch single by a band called the Northwestern, who you almost definitely haven't heard of. And it comes in like a sealed, special formed plastic pack here. This is number 394 out of 500. It's a limited edition 7-inch single. You probably haven't heard of the Northwestern as a band, and I completely understand why you won't have done, because the Northwestern are a band that existed between 2007 and 2010, features Sam Herlihy and Simon Jones of the Hope of the States, who I saw 4 times last year, and I absolutely love them to bits. This is one of the records that was released afterwards by New Configuration. Sam and Simon, working together alongside other musicians who I can't name, released a couple of EPs and later on a download album of demos. But no one was interested in it. Not enough people bought it. Not enough people were interested in it. Which means no matter how good it was, it wasn't commercially viable. To quote the line from the film Falling Down. And I like the Northwestern. I think they're great. They're underappreciated. I wish they were bigger. And I wish the songs had been given the life that they deserve. But they weren't. They got the life that they did. Good band. I wish more people liked them. So this is a book. This is a book that I haven't read. It is A Tarantula by Bob Dylan. You may not think this, but I'm really interested in Bob Dylan. I think he's fascinating as an artist. As a human being, he clearly constructs a different version of himself than really exists. So his inner monologue, his inner life, his personality, the music that he likes. Very little is actually known about Bob Dylan. It's all whirlwind and flash and boom and clouds and fog. And it's like trying to, it's like trying to nail jelly to the ceiling, to quote Michael Stipe, trying to understand anything about Bob Dylan's life. In fact, I did read Chronicles, the Bob Dylan autobiography, Volume 1. There still hasn't been a Volume 2, and it's been at least 20 years since that came out. And it's frustrating because, there's a fascinating story there about how somebody creates their own identity on and becomes their own person and becomes who they want to be and not who anybody else wants them to be. But you don't get any of that in this. I know I haven't read this, I should point out, although this did used to belong to Leslie Watson Walker of Canterbury. So what is Tarantula about? It says on the inside. It's about a lawyer who leads his pig around on a leash and takes his paranoia seriously. It's about a police chief who's had his name engraved on his personal bazooka. It's about Jesus, he's just another meathead, and Truman Peyote, that sings a bell, and Tom, who ought to have been called Bill, and other curious things. And finally, it's about Bob Dylan thinking aloud. And what's special about him thinking aloud? Tarantula, written in 1966, is the first and only book Bob Dylan has published, and it's easy to see why Tarantula is a loner. So I've not read it. In fact, I'm just digging into it now, and it seems to me to be a very, very interesting set of fragments of lyrics, prose, little bits that don't make a huge amount of sense. Really reminds me actually of William Burroughs and Guyson and other people like that who created little bits of work but didn't actually master the narrative in much of a definitive way. So this is one which I'm going to be reading at some point over the next few years. When, I don't know. What am I going to think of it? Probably not very much. But you know what? I should try. During lockdown, I decided I was going to go and listen to and watch and experience and read things which to me, culture had been moving so fast and I was so tired. Because, hey, I'm old now. That's what happens. You get tired. I started watching Star Trek again. I ended up going through, I've finished Deep Space Nine now, so I've watched all of the original series, The Next Generation, the films, Deep Space Nine. I've just started up Voyager, which has only taken me 30 years after it was broadcast. Those are all things that I'm going to be putting forward in future. Tarantula is another thing that when the time comes is I will sit down and I will read it. So the last thing that we have in the bag of dreams, it's a DVD. And I don't know what it is, but it's a DVD in a slipcase. And oh my word, it's the Meg. Oh, I love the Meg. The Meg is fantastic. And the Meg 2 is brilliant as well. Because, you know, as it says, Jason Statham versus a giant shark. What's not to love? So I love cheesy movies. I love films like Sharktopus versus Croconado and things like that. And Megalopolis versus, you know, for example, Dynodile and Crocosaur. So this is just a lovely, stupid film. Sometimes you've got to lean into it and go, what if I wanted to switch my brain off and just watch something that was ridiculous and stupid and funny and enjoyable? What would it be? Well, it wouldn't be far off the Meg. So the Meg is a megalithic period shark. So, by the way, and you can see, it is not mucking about. You know, Jaws is there. It's bigger than Jaws. It's not just a great white shark. It's the greatest white shark. It's absolutely huge. And it's kind of like an action movie, but with a super mega apex predator in it as well. The Megalodon, a prehistoric 75-foot shark once believed to be extinct. As a massive sea creature that attacks a submersible, and the crew become trapped at the bottom of the Pacific's deepest trench. It is everything that I can't even remember the name of them now. I think it starts with a T. There's a film studio that makes films with stupid names like Crocodile versus Megalodos, and they're all made for a budget of about 1 million, and they've got like 4 decent shots in, and like for example they created the Sharknado movies. I love the Sharknado movies because they are ridiculous. It's what happens if you let an idea go crazy and take it to its furthest extreme. And with that film and with this film is like one of those movies, but it's with money and Jason Statham, which means they can actually show you what just exists in their imagination. I should say, by the way, that I think is it Croctopus versus Megasaur or something like that, has one of my favourite shots of all time. It's just a one scene shot. It's just a view down. It's in an amusement park, and it's where kind of like weird mutant dinosaurs become part of the ecosystem and start killing people. It's probably like Jurassic Shark or something. Actually, it's probably what it's called. I can't remember what it is now. It's got this amazing shot. It might be Sharknado. It's got this amazing shot, and you're looking down onto an amusement park with a swimming pool. You've got a woman who's at the top, and they're going to jump off the diving board, and they're going to go 100 feet down into the water. And they just walk to the front, and then they jump down like this, and then all of a sudden out of the water comes this huge mega shark and just goes whoosh, and then disappears and takes them underground. And I'm like, that is like, the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio goes, there, that's it, that's the thing, that's what I wanted, that is it. And the Meg is like that. It's stupid, but it knows it's stupid. It's ridiculous, but it knows it's ridiculous. It's a little daft, but it knows it's daft, and it also knows daft is a huge amount of fun, and sometimes you should lean into the daft. You really, really ought to, and therefore the Meg is not one of my favourite films, because apparently my favourite films are a previous episode, which include Duel and the Blue Cat, Blade Runner, The Shining, and The Black Hole are in my top 13 movies of all time. Yes, The Black Hole, that one by Disney, featuring Maximilian and other space things. But no, The Meg is a good, silly, fun film. I love it to bits. The Meg 2, by the way, is one of the best sequels ever. It's up there with Happy Death Day to You. It really is. And Happy Death Day to You is one of my favourite sequels of all time, by the way. Not that you asked, but I should do. But that is the random assortment and selection of stuff from my random record rummage. Now that is the bit where I slow down and I show the picture, and this is going to be the thumbnail, I reckon. And that is going to be that. So, without any further ado, much ado about nothing, I am going to finish, hang up, and be done. Be gone with ye, and start the rest of my bank holiday, which will possibly involve playing Grand Theft Auto. So there you are. So if you see me on the streets of Grand Theft Auto, setting fire to people with a flamethrower, Don't be surprised. It's just Monday. Right. Take care of yourselves and each other. Be excellent to each other. Stay beautiful. Bye.